Girl, the camera better not be catching you licking yourself. A lot of people have been talking about the final season of Stranger Things, and trust me, I have my thoughts too. But I wanted to discuss something about this season that really pissed me off. Warning, I am going to be lightly spoiling a little bit of season 5, but one, it's something that the audience already knew, and two, it doesn't really actually play into the plot at all. This.
I don't like girls. I mean, I do, just not like you guys do.
This is stupid. And do you know why it's stupid? Because gay men have never had it that easy.
A mystery disease known as the gay plague has become an epidemic unprecedented in the history of American medicine.
That just because my friends and I are gay, if we are affected by this disease, that no one really cares, that it seems that we deserved it, so let us die.
It doesn't matter what custom you've got. It doesn't matter what holy thing that you worship and adore. The gays are going to get it.
The second you see your son dropping the limp wrist, you rock over there and crack that wrist.
The debate over whether to lift the ban on homosexuals in the military has, to put it mildly, sparked a great deal of interest over the last few days.
In Japan, an American sailor has pleaded guilty to murdering a gay shipmate last October. Airman Terry Helvey entered the plea at a pre-trial hearing in U.S. military court on Monday. He was accused of killing Alan Schindler, whose body was discovered in a public restroom in a town in southern Japan.
I'm not for gay marriage. I think marriage is a sacred institution between a man and a woman.
I believe marriage is between a man and a woman.
Tell Americans straight up that I don't support defining marriage as anything but between one man and one woman.
Do you support gay marriage? No. Barack Obama nor I support redefining from a civil side what constitutes marriage.
My duty to make this announcement, both Mayor Moscone and Supervisor Harvey Milk have been shot and killed.
Oh, Jesus Christ! We will tell you your views have got a goofy. You don't like it, sue me. Nothing's gonna move me.
You guys aren't against homosexuality because maybe you've had, homosexual thoughts yourself.
No, I'm against homosexuality because God Almighty says, "Thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is abomination." Those 12 little words there, Nick, what part of that don't people understand?
Some say what happened at this fence post in the cold and barren foothills of the Rockies was a hate crime. Others try to pass it off as just a robbery. The one thing that's clear is that what happened to Matthew Shepard was horribly brutal.
These people took him out and tortured him and hung him on a fence and battered his head in.
And it also has to do with homosexuality. And they said it's an offense. It's an abomination for a man to lie with a man as with a woman. That's what it says. And those who do that in the Old Testament were stoned to death. For some reason now the Supreme Court has said homosexuality is now a constitutional right. The Bible didn't talk about civil rights. It talked about this was an offense against God.
My son was in there with his boyfriend and two other guys. They heard about 20 shots.
Get out of here.
Oh my God, dude.
That went bam, 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 bam. People screaming and falling.
Everybody, what's wrong?
I got a text message from my daughter and my two nieces. Please come and get us.
Please come get us out because he's about to kill us. I don't know if he was left in the club, if he got shot, or if he's being worked on here. I don't know. He said he was going to die and he loved me. That's the last thing I heard.
My son, he got shot 3 times.
He's my only child.
Gay people have existed throughout history and also have been persecuted throughout history by mainly Abrahamic traditions, Judaism, Islam, and Christianity. To very much water it down, basically being gay was bad because it meant you were having fun, enjoyable sex that did not result in babies. Because sex is bad and only should be done for making babies, only a man and a woman can make a baby, therefore gay sex equals a sin. It is very, very stupid and is one of the many reasons why I am an atheist. Let's fast forward to the United States in the late 1940s and you have the Lavender Scare, which was a moral panic surrounding homosexuals.
The point that I make is that, goddamn, I do not think that you glorify on public television homosexuality. The last 6 Roman emperors were fags. You see, homosexuality, immorality generally, these are the enemies of strong societies. That's why the communists and the left-wingers are pushing it.
This piggybacked off of the Red Scare, where people were afraid of communists and socialists. Because capitalism.
This is America.
The Lavender Scare and the effect that it had on our country and culture in general is truly fascinating and something I highly recommend people look into themselves, because I really just don't have time to get into it here. But it caused homosexuality to be classified as a mental illness, and homosexuals were seen as mentally depraved and criminally insane. This allowed persecution of people who were suspected of being homosexuals and their removal from their government positions. And this would happen if you were actually gay or not, and it was all there to protect national security. Yeah, the government has been doing this shit forever. But here in the 1940s and 50s is where you saw the push towards the uber-masculine male. The ultimate no homo.
2 bros chilling in the hot tub, 5 feet apart cause they're not gay.
Because men could be at risk of losing their jobs and reputations if they were perceived in any way to be gay, they oftentimes wouldn't even allow themselves to be alone with another man lest a rumor gets started. And we can still see the effects of this to this day.
When was the last time you complimented your guy friend, and what'd you say?
There's no compliments. It's impossible to compliment a friend as a guy, because they'll just call you gay for complimenting.
Usually I slap them on the ass, or I'll tap their nuts with the back of my hand, so it's not gay, it's the back of the hand, like a TSA guy.
Last night, someone came up to me and said, random guy I don't know, he says, nice haircut. I wanted to fight him.
I compliment dudes every time I leave the house. I'm a Puerto Rican dude from New York. I was born a cat call. I have a fiance. I can't do that. I'm telling men, yo, I like those shoes, Papa. We men should compliment each other more. If one of the bros gives me, he's overcoming like 3 generations of homophobia to do that.
The Lavender Scare didn't exactly end, more like faded over time, and historians put its dates from 1947 to 1975. The first season of Stranger Things is set in 1983, 8 years after the end of the Lavender Scare. That means all of the characters in this story were not only alive during that time, but are also living in a sort of big town, small city in a Republican state that voted for Reagan in both 1980 and 1984. So let's talk about Reagan. Reagan was so-so with regards to gay men. While he and his wife Nancy were known to have gay friends, and as California governor, he was opposed to the Briggs Initiative, which would have banned gay and lesbian teachers in California public schools. It was conservative Christian groups backing him, which led to his 1980 presidential win over Jimmy Carter, whom these groups had attacked in their ads for being gay-friendly, which sounds weirdly familiar.
Anyway, Summer, take it away. Why the hell do you support Trump as president?
I support Trump because I support his decisions, and the Democrat Party supports, the gays. They support abortion.
Did you just say the gays?
In 1981, AIDS was medically recognized in New York and California, but it wasn't until the death of movie star Rock Hudson, who was a friend of the Reagans, in 1985 that the president actually started to consider the seriousness of the disease. Up until that point, funding for AIDS research and treatment had basically been non-existent, and the lack of any acknowledgement by Reagan until 1985 was something that really angered the LGBT community. Furthermore, not much happened after this point either. Funding would be allocated and then cut. An administrative report was assembled by Surgeon General C. Everett Koop with the assistance from the head of the National Institute for Allergy and Infectious Disease, Anthony Fauci, along with a number of gay activists. Yeah, that Anthony Fauci.
We didn't get involved thinking, we're going to get it and we're going to look at drug regulation and clinical research. We wanted treatment because we were sick. And the only place where there was any possible area to get any treatment was through the clinical research system. And that's what led us to you.
You were a target, a major target. He was the head of AIDS research. And we were one of the most hated communities in the country.
Say the word AIDS in public. That took the president 7 years.
Reagan, yeah. The polling showed that homophobia just kept rising during AIDS. there was a backlash. It was just getting worse and worse.
The report was an absolute bombshell. While it did dispel myths about AIDS and how it was contracted, it also promoted educating people, including children as young as 8 and 9, on safe heterosexual and homosexual sex. And that pissed the conservatives off. Because remember, education is bad and sex education is really bad.
Don't have sex, because you will get pregnant and die.
So basically, Reagan was just really uncomfortable with the report and said that if people didn't want to contract AIDS, to be moral and keep sex inside of marriage. And that was pretty much it. If anything, it was really more Nancy Reagan and their son Ron who pushed the president into giving speeches and including gay men in the discussion. The conservatives in the government were really pushing this idea onto the American people that AIDS was God's punishment on gays for basically being sinful. This pushed a lot of gays and lesbians to remain in the closet due to persecution from fear surrounding the disease. Charlie Howard was an openly gay 23-year-old living in Bangor, Maine. On July 7th, 1987, while out walking with his partner Roy Ogden, 3 teenagers, Sean Mary, 16, Jim Baines, 15, and Daniel Ness, 17, attacked them. Roy was able to get away and pulled the first fire alarm that he came to try and get help, but Charlie was beaten and hoisted over the railings of the Kandusky River Bridge. Charlie begged for his life, telling the teenagers he couldn't swim, but they didn't care and they pried his fingers from the railings, throwing him into the water. At 1 a.m., his body had been found, and he had drowned. The boys were tried as juveniles and sentenced to remain in prison for no longer than their 21st birthdays. Baines was released after 2 years, and Mambry after 22 months. And again, this was all taking place during the events of Stranger Things. And these kids are all 12 years old in the first season, which takes place again in 1983. That means they were all probably born in 1971. Up until 1962, sodomy was a felony in every single state in this country, and the Stonewall riots happened in 1969. Society does not just change overnight. Even now, in the age of the internet and social media, where ideas and cultures are able to be readily exchanged, things still take time to shift. A perfect example of this is when Ellen DeGeneres came out.
This is so hard, but I think I've realized that I can't even say the word. Why can't I just say the truth? I mean, be who I am. I'm 35 years old. I'm so afraid to tell people. I mean, Susan, I'm gay.
She was the first leading character in a television program to be openly gay, and the backlash was not pretty.
Why did you think it was necessary for you to come out? You know, you've read some of the mail. People say, so if you're going to, why not just let that be your business? Why was it necessary for you to come out, tell the public? Why was it necessary for the character to do so?
Because it's okay. Because it is okay.
I did Oprah's show, I did the cover of Time magazine, and I did a Diane Sawyer interview. That's all I did. That's all I planned on doing. But because it became such a huge cultural thing and 45 million people watched it, and then people all around the world talked, and then an article was written, and then another article was written, and then an article was written on that article, and then everybody got so sick of it, it got to the point where even Elton John, who I'd never met in my life, Elton John said, "We know you're gay, shut up and be funny." Then it was all kinds of other lessons of learning what it's like to not be loved and to be the butt of everybody's joke on television and in magazines. And so I had to learn what that feels like to not let things like that get to you.
Religious groups protested outside of ABC studios to take Ellen off the air, and the studio caved and the show was canceled.
It's funny because all along that was my biggest fear, is that it was going to get canceled. And I was not told that it was canceled. I was told through an assistant who read it in the trades.
Even Laura Dern, who played opposite Ellen in the episode, had to deal with the loss of work and safety issues after it aired. And Oprah even had to defend her decision to interview Ellen after she came out.
I've seen it in the Bible. It clearly states that homosexuality is wrong. And I feel that you are a powerful woman and you have done so much. And if you are going to represent yourself as a Christian, and then you're going to go on the show and say that you also support that, it's double standarding.
Well, I have a different view of Christian than you do. Okay? And the God I serve doesn't care whether you're tall or short, or whether you were born black or Asian or gay. And so that's just a difference of belief. And I don't expect to change your belief today, because I have, just before I came down here, I'm late today because I was in the makeup room arguing with somebody who was telling me how all gay people are going to hell, and now I'm going to hell with all the other gay people for doing the show.
In a 1999 interview, Ellen is quoted as saying, "I really thought people would be more embracing and more welcoming when I did what I did, because they'd had time to get to know me first. And I learned a big lesson. That doesn't change overnight." And her coming out happened in 1997, 10 years after the date of Will's coming out episode. And so now if you're like, Sam, you're not a gay man, what right do you have to say anything about this? First of all, rude. Second, as always, this is just my opinion. And third, I know minority groups are not a monolith, and what one person says about something is not the opinion of the group as a whole. I did ask one of my oldest friends, Nate, who I grew up with in a small, very religious, very Republican city like Hawkins in the 90s and 2000s, what he thought about some of these things that happened in the episode, whether he felt it was helpful or harmful for the community, and he did let me quote him. Quote, "I came out officially in 2009, but really it was more of a process that spanned a number of years before that. I think for me the issue with Will's coming out was that it felt so manufactured, especially when you compare it to Robin's in the same show. She was way more natural in the way that transpired. Coming out is a big deal and it's deeply personal. It's not like something people are just normally ready to share with somebody in a big group. Normally you share with someone or some people close to you, and I guess that's what the show was going for. Like, these people were his closest friends, but it still felt odd and like a spectacle. That was also not really aligned with what I perceived his character to be like. I don't think the scene was harmful or helpful, but I do think the overly produced scene was less impactful than it could have been." End quote. For me, it really did seem like the moment was shoehorned in. Even though Will said it was important because Vecna was going to use his fear of coming out against him, that never really happened, and we were told Vecna told him that, but we weren't shown it. And telling instead of showing was a really big problem that they had in this season, and what really made it feel very different from the previous 4 seasons. There were also just too many things being introduced without wrapping up current plot lines that the showrunners did not have the time to focus on a subject that would have needed at least an entire season to allow the characters to properly react to and come to terms with Will's coming out, which didn't even really end up factoring into the plot, like, at all. Plus, we already had this really great moment between Will and Jonathan in season 4.
I miss talking to you. I, really miss it. And I think right now, we need to talk more than ever, because things are getting just complicated. I don't want you to forget that I'm here. And I'll always be here, no matter what, because you're my brother, and I love you. And there is nothing in this world, okay? Absolutely nothing that will ever change that. You got that?
Yeah.
Come here. It's gonna be okay. Yeah.
There is still a huge struggle for the LGBT community, even in our current times. And acting like coming out, especially 40 years ago, was no big deal really does a disservice to the people who had to live through the decades before this one, where this was truly dangerous. So basically, this felt really disrespectful towards gay people who endured discrimination in previous decades. It did nothing but detract from an already struggling season. It felt like a ham-fisted attempt at diversity. Just go watch Heated Rivalry. This is my quick little getting back to YouTube take on the subject. I do have a lot to say about the final season and how it could have been so much better, but I really wanted to get this video out and it would have just taken forever to edit, and I just did not want to. I wanted to focus on this subject, but I have opinions. I have so many opinions. If you'd like to hear those thoughts and opinions, then like this video, subscribe. If you'd like to hear those thoughts and opinions, then like this video, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment about the fact that you want to hear my opinion on Stranger Things, your personal experience surrounding the topic in this video, or really just anything. I hope everyone is having a great start to their year, as much as you can be considering everything. Everyone stay safe out there, and I will hopefully see you very soon. I need a way to end the videos, but I don't have one. Want to see the cat? Here's the cat. If you're like, wait, that's not the cat. The old cat died. This is the new cat, Winnie. She's so pretty. Hi, baby.
Yeah.